Cyberpunk. The word has an evocative ring to it these days, a genre of chrome and guns, one of dystopic high-rises and squalid slums, of bad day one releases and Cyberpunk Red's inability to garner a thread on TG. But what is Cyberpunk? After reading through the sphere, I noticed a lot of people arguing the new show Edgerunners was not true Cyberpunk, but that felt odd to me because it looked, acted, and said it was Cyberpunk. So I went on a quest to find the answer of what real Cyberpunk was, which is to say I asked a bunch of people on Discord. Conclusive evidence revealed the following. Poor people are sad, corporate greed is evil, sobbing face emoji, I want to hug Lucy, and high-tech low lives. The last one was the main highlight, however. In the long posts detailing the specifics and the short one-line thoughts, it was a consistent factor. Then arguments broke out. What was and was not Cyberpunk? What may be and what couldn't be? But through all the bickering, I ended up identifying 5 core states of Cyberpunk. The first was the tonalist. It was all about the tone of the work. Didn't matter if it was bright-eyed and lovely or doom-writing nightmare machines. High-tech, low lives needed to be the main tone and theme throughout. The second were the aesthetics. To them, it was all look, grime, neon, chrome. As long as it looked like Cyberpunk, it was Cyberpunk. High-tech, low lives was an aesthetic, a fashion statement, a revolt against appearance. The Gibsonites were the smallest, but some of the most vocal. Neuromancer and its immediately derived works were the genre. Anything else was simply a pale comparison to them. The high-tech low lives was a simple mission statement of a particular venue of science fiction, which leads then into ideological cyberpunk. Not necessarily a strict group, but a continuous theme that cyberpunk's message was the point. This is where green cyberpunk, ANCAP nightmare cyberpunk, and anarchist revolution cyberpunk kept coming up. High-tech low lives mean nothing without the ideological notion and message behind it. Finally, the punks. A simple understanding that Cyberpunk was whatever it wanted to be, more than just a series of heuristic beats to mentally attach ourselves to. Nothing more than another steampunk, clockpunk, solarpunk, or whatever the fuck hermit punk is to add to the list. High-tech low lives wasn't the important part. It was the sheer concept of being cyberpunk which made it cyberpunk. Each of these demonstrated something odd to me, in that describing cyberpunk is almost impossible. I mean, hell, look at our biggest cyberpunk TTRPG out there, the titular Cyberpunk itself, and Shadowrun. One's effectively a post-apocalyptic ANCAP nightmare super city, while Shadowrun has literal elves with magic in it. I thought about it, and taking the 3 most basic concepts of a true cyberpunk and coming up something to fit in it. Cyber is relating to our characteristic or culture of computers, information technology, and virtual reality. Punk is a worthless person, often used as a general term of abuse, and the phrase high-tech, low lives is what cyberpunk in total actually is. These may or may not be converted into more nuanced projects, but overall, here's something. Welcome to the future. You're covered in blood and somebody is dead. Luckily for you and your team, though, you have a barely functioning meat wagon, a private ambulance of the future you use to pick up the half-dead and attempt to keep them alive to a very private hospital. It's a future of privatized healthcare to the point of absurdity. You're debatably legal and are expected to extract people from a potential gunfight. Meat Wagon is a game primarily about playing a budget trauma team. You're not exactly top of the line, far from it, but when some punk is bleeding to death on a sidewalk with a 45 in his gut, he'd rather pay you to fix him up than meet his maker. Technically, you're fairly advanced medical tech, but in the heat of combat, all that kind of gets thrown out the window when you're trying to perform field surgery while 2 people are shooting at one another. Putting in a fairly extensive medical system would almost be necessary to keep this flowing nicely, trying to diagnose and perform various medical procedures in the heat of conflict. The low lives actually comes in mostly when dealing with your meat wagon, having its own loan and having to throw someone out the back when they can't pay. Do you take a moral but financially bankrupt option, or a financially savvy but morally bankrupt one? This man's life is on the line. He's bleeding out, but he cannot pay. What's your choice? Welcome to the future. You're getting shot at. Luckily for you, you have steady employment running like hell. You're a courier, a person who's the sole purpose of transporting whatever horrifically dangerous stuff from one side of the city to the other. Similar to Mirror's Edge, you're going to need to use a combination of aggressive parkour and personal reserves to push through the threats in front of you. So what if you're transporting organs? Courier Blue is mostly a resource management game, never quite having enough of anything to push through the ever-increasing struggle of delivering a bunch of illegal cybernetics and drugs across a neon cityscape, all while being dogged by police and other gangs who want your stuff. I would picture it mostly as a single-player experience, one with just a deck of cards, a sheet of paper, and maybe some dice, and an ever-increasing amount of dread when you roll a 6 and your noodle boy needs to transport some heavy fucking firearms. What you're doing is horrifically illegal. You're doing it for terrible people, for minimal pay, and yet it's what you need to do. Go against these guys? Well, you'll probably end up chopped up like the guy you currently have in this very odd-smelling suitcase. Welcome to the future. You don't have one anymore. Panzermana is a simple concept. You're a person who has undertaken the most illegal of super cybernetic implants and have put a small timer on your lifespan because of it. You're faster, stronger, and generally better than most regular human beings. The catch, well, 95% of your body is actually cybernetic at this point, with just enough in your brain case to be considered maybe legally considered human, and just enough of your insides to make sure that the adrenaline actually flows properly. You don't feel anymore. You don't sleep anymore. You don't dream anymore. As a Panzermana, you're a walking kill machine, which legal experts debate your humanity as you have more illegal cybernetics in you than legal organs. But can they just kill you? You are still, well, maybe a person. Panzermana is a game about a timer. Similar to Juicers from Rift, your lifespan has been cut down to a few years to maybe just a year. And that's if you have the proper injections, eat the right pills, and get the right maintenance in your system to make sure those cybernetics don't literally devour your soul. The upside? Well, you're now a one-man killing machine, more concerned with ripping and tearing your way across the underworld as a premier asset and decapitating any unfortunate fuck who gets in your way. You've traded the rest of your life for the immortality of memory. Obviously, making this game is going to be a bit more episodic. You are slowly having your Panzermana break down from job to job, with the obvious question for everyone being, who would become one of these? Desperate people, scared people, adrenaline junkies, or maybe just the living dead who've already abandoned all hope. Panzermana is a lifestyle choice for those without a life. It's either go fast and die in glory or wither away. Welcome to the future. You live in the boonies. The odd reality of most cyberpunk fiction is that it's big cities and neon lights, but what about those looking outside the city high-rises and instead of the dirt-poor backwoods nightmare shitholes of the world? Backwood Jackal is all about the life and times of the titular jackals, individuals who tear shit up in the rural outlands looking for abandoned tech and abandoned dumps, ambushing unfortunate travelers and beating the hell out of the other poor bastards from over there who aren't part of your personal clan of assholes without much to work with. Backwood Jackal is a cyberpunk game in the most literal definition, relying heavily on being these scumbag losers in a shitty place, bound together by a mutual respect for one another as well as a desire to live another day longer. You're a bunch of kids revolting against a system that has fucked you up. You have hand-me-down cybernetics and barely enough dough to get through the day. Scavenging and hunting would be essential mechanics of this, while hunting being more about riding in customized battle wagons, hunting down some unfortunate corporate convoy for the hell of it, and some fat stacks. You're not part of the world these people live in. The city is evil. It's the definition of over there and wrongness for you and your people. You have nothing to live for, but you serve an essential part in the city slickers' lives, a jackal in their trash. What this was, at the end of it, was an experiment to see if one can create a cyberpunk using just the most basic concepts of cyberpunk and high-tech low life. And I believe it shows aspects of it well enough. Before I sleep into this dreamless sleep, I wanted to touch on one more important aspect of this all. The suffix punk means absolutely nothing these days. You can fight about semantics all you want, but the term punk anything has quickly diminished in its value and definition over the past few years. It's easy to get caught up in what is and what is not cyberpunk, but to understand the basic genre has quickly expanded to the point of no return. Do whatever the hell you want. Nothing makes sense. We live in a society powered by memes. My name is Notepad Anon. This was my cyberpsychosis-fueled meandering thoughts about a cyberpunk world. If you like what I do here, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.